Hello friends, this is dictation exercise number 29 and the dictation speed is 150 words per minute. Ready? Start. Facebook has made an investment of more than rupees 43,000 crore in Jio Platforms for a 10% stake. Jio Platforms is a wholly owned subsidiary of Reliance Industries. This move by Facebook reaffirms two axioms about valuations in tech and telecom. One is that access matters. Jio, which has 388 million subscribers at last count, has that in spades. It is the window to the world of 388 million Indians. The second axiom is that the pace of digitization has been accelerated by the coronavirus disease. This presents a great business opportunity for both. In his comments after the Jio deal was announced, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg spoke of the presence of more than 60 million small businesses in India and helping businesses create new opportunities. There is already talk that WhatsApp, owned by Facebook and Reliance Retail, could partner, creating a mix of an online and offline model. For Reliance, the deal makes great financial sense. Rupees 15,000 crore goes to Jio Platforms itself, which will use the money to grow. The remaining amount of around rupees 28,000 crore will be used by the company to redeem some of the optional convertible debentures, which the parent Reliance Industries holds in it. Reliance will use the money to retire some of its substantial debt of over rupees 1.53 lakh crore. The deal will also help Reliance in its aim of enhancing the revenue from its retail and telecom businesses to 50% of its overall revenue in a few years from the current 32%. Given that Facebook has had a series of run-ins with the Indian government, this move can help it navigate the regulatory environment better. Pakistan is using the coronavirus pandemic to secure its terror infrastructure. First, there were reports that the Financial Action Task Force is expected to put off a review of steps taken so far by Pakistan till much later in the year because of the pandemic. On April 20, another report emerged of Pakistan removing almost 3,800 names from a terrorism watch list for Punjab province. Of these, more than 1,800 names were removed since early March. While the international community was focused on the COVID-19 pandemic, counter-terrorism experts also noted that Pakistan's National Counter-Terrorism Authority cited no explanation for the removal of names, which is the standard practice during such delistings. Pakistan's counter-terrorism practices are notoriously opaque. For years, the website of National Counter-Terrorism Authority only maintained a list for proscribed organizations, which with officials asserting that the maintenance of lists of proscribed individuals was the responsibility of provincial authorities. It is not just the listings of terrorists. There is no information in the public domain regarding the trial of the 7 men arrested for alleged involvement in the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Pakistan is clearly making the most of reduced pressure from the world community to crack down on terrorism at a time when most countries are focused on defeating the pandemic and addressing its impact on their economies. This is shameful. The let-up of pressure on terrorists comes at a time when Pakistani forces have intensified shelling along the frontiers in Kashmir. India will find it hard to take up these issues with other countries as bilateral and multilateral meetings have ground to a halt. The only option now is for India to keep its powder dry to deal with mischief by Pakistan-based terrorists and to firm up its plans to increase the cost for Pakistan using terrorism as a state policy. The center has significantly strengthened legal protection for frontline healthcare workers in the light of the persistent attacks on them even as they battle the coronavirus disease. Amending the Antiquated Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, the government has made attack against healthcare workers as a non-bailable offense, expedited the duration of the investigation, instituted a prison sentence for the convicted up to 7 years, and provided for fines ranging from rupees 2 lakh to rupees 5 lakh. The ordinance will cover doctors, nurses, paramedical staff, and accredited social health workers who have faced increasing attacks on the grounds that their work makes them carriers of the virus. Housing societies have denied them accommodation, they have been physically attacked, and in one particularly heart-rending case, mobs attacked the ambulance carrying the dead body of a doctor to his burial site. The proposal to appoint nodal officers to register any concerns that healthcare workers have regarding their safety is a welcome measure too. Misinformations on social media, ignorance, prejudice, and disregard for the law have contributed to the appalling stigma. To its credit, the government has consistently lauded the role of healthcare workers and emphasized their indispensability in the fight against the virus. The Prime Minister himself has taken the lead with his public calls to honor healthcare workers. The government must now disseminate the provisions of the ordinance widely using all the tools at its disposal. Political parties should use their extensive cadres to inform constituents of the new measures. Much will depend on the efficacy of implementation, which has so often been a gap in enforcing the law. The government will need to ramp up security presence both in medical facilities and outside as they conduct screening operations. But at the end, this is not just a question of legal safeguards. It is a moral imperative that we respect and protect those who are saving lives at great risks to their own. This is a test of Indian society and its values. Prejudice and irrationality should never be allowed to win over humanity and science. When we fix people into one image, we create a stereotype. When people say that those who belong to a particular country, religion, sex, race or economic background are stingy, lazy, criminal or dumb, they are using stereotypes. There are stingy and generous people everywhere, in every country, in every religion, in every group, whether rich or poor, male or female. Just because some people are like that, it is not fair to think that everyone will be the same. Stereotypes stop us from looking at each person as a unique individual with his or her own special qualities and skills that are different from others. They fit large numbers of people into only one pattern or type. Stereotypes affect all of us as they prevent us from doing certain things that we might otherwise be good at. Discrimination happens when people act on their prejudices or stereotypes. If you do something to put other people down, if you stop them from taking part in certain activities and taking up jobs, or stop them from living in certain neighborhoods, prevent them from taking water from the same well or hand pump, or not allow them to drink tea in the same cups or glasses as others, you are discriminating against them. Discrimination can take place because of several reasons. Groups of people who may speak a certain language, follow a particular religion, live in specific regions, etc. may be discriminated against as their customs or practices may be seen as inferior. People who are poor do not have the resources or the money to meet their basic needs of food, clothing and shelter. They experience discrimination in offices, hospitals, schools, etc., where they are treated badly because they are poor. Some people may experience both kinds of discrimination. They are poor and they belong to groups whose culture is not valued. Tribals, some religious groups and even particular regions are discriminated against for one or more of these reasons. People are engaged in different kinds of work like teaching, carpentry, pottery, weaving, fishing, farming, etc. to earn a livelihood. However, certain kinds of work are valued more than others. Activities like cleaning, washing, cutting hair, picking garbage are seen as tasks that are of less value, and people who do this work are seen as dirty or impure. This belief is an important aspect of the caste system. In the caste system, communities or groups of people were placed in a sort of ladder where each caste was either above or below the other. Those who placed themselves at the top of this ladder called themselves upper caste and saw themselves as superior. The groups who were placed at the bottom of the ladder were seen as unworthy and called untouchables. Every country needs a government to make decisions and get things done. These can be decisions about where to build roads and schools, or how to reduce the price of onions when they get too expensive, or ways to increase the supply of electricity. The government also takes action on many social issues. It does other important things such as running postal and railway services. The government makes laws and everyone who lives in the country has to follow these. This is the only way governments can function. Just like the government has the power to make decisions, it has the power to enforce its decisions. For example, there is a law that says that all persons driving a motor vehicle must have a license.